Hey, all you phlegmatics out there.
This one's for you.
Phlegmatic parents or formators, teachers. This is going to be a great podcast for you to understand your superpowers as a phlegmatic parent or formator, but also where you get a little frustrated and triggered by some of those other temperaments that are out there.
Yeah, this one is full of good stuff, little gems, some strategies. Stick around.
Yeah, I'm going to help you create some more peace and harmony in your home here.
Yep.
See you in there. Hello.
Hi, guys. Welcome back.
Owe me a Coke. Jinx.
You drink Coke? That's so gross.
I remember when I stopped. The moment I stopped drinking soda, I immediately lost 5 pounds.
No way.
Just stopped. And
Of
now
course.
if I drink a Coca-Cola, it's like overwhelmingly sweet.
Well, you're not gross. Out there, if you're listening, you're not a gross person if you drink Coke. I'm not saying that.
Wow.
What I am saying is that my experience drinking it now, like after not having it ever, like in a very long time, my teeth are like coated with sugar. I'm like, ugh.
I'm picturing the person that's watching this and it's just like has a nice Diet Coke in their hand. They're just like, oh my gosh, next.
Oh my gosh.
Canceled.
I just thought of that woman who put the Mentos into the
into the Pepsi.
Oh my gosh.
Goodness gracious.
Okay, anyway.
Say that.
Very distracted.
Okay.
Guys, welcome back.
Yeah,
We
we're
are
going to be your
talking
Catholic coaches for the
about-
day. Let's do this.
Okay. Do you want to go?
No, I want to do our opening line here. We're going to be your Catholic coaches for the day. All right, there we go. I said it. Okay, I'm very systematic. What are we talking about, Erin?
Okay. I'll help you finish that. Okay. So Matt I'm your Catholic coach. I'm Erin. And this
I'm
is
Matt.
okay.
Totally butchered it already. Moving on.
Today we're talking about being a phlegmatic parent.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, we're going to be talking about being a phlegmatic parent to all of the different temperaments. But today we're going to be talking about being a phlegmatic parent to a choleric child.
This is so fun.
This is a fun one. I coach so many moms on this one, because I don't know. There's just like, and here, this is a fascinating thing, and it might be I don't know, it might be just like an overgeneralization, but I have found that many moms who have many kids are phlegmatic, and maybe it's just like the right temperament to have a lot of kids.
Sure. Okay.
And there's always one or two little cholerics in there, maybe just one, and
That's all you need.
that's it. That is all you need.
Mix it up.
So really what we're going to be talking about today are your superpowers as a phlegmatic parent, your frustrations with all the different other temperaments. And then I'm going to walk you through my own mindset. And this is kind of like a combination of like my own, but also what other people have told me who've like continually brought up to me clients of mine who are phlegmatic parents, and how I would walk them through it, or how I've walked myself through this, because I am secondary phlegmatic and choleric children still scare me sometimes.
Yeah, it's like we don't have a choleric child, but
Praise God.
we've seen them on TV. We've coached a number of parents with them. So
We haven't seen them on TV. We've been around other
it's an
choleric
expression.
children. Okay.
It's an expression.
I'm
Okay.
like,
All right. But I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express. Okay. So you're going to walk away with some better hacks for your parenting, staying your parenting genius as a phlegmatic. So let's dive into it. What are the strengths, Erin, of the phlegmatic parent?
patience. Actually, as I read these off, you should tell me.
It's
if
your
I have it.
secondary.
No, I'm just
I'm
kidding.
going to say no.
I do not have patience, and I'm saying that because it's very funny that that's the first one. Patience. Phlegmatic parents are calm and composed, handling challenges without becoming easily frustrated.
And I have seen you be patient, like definitely patient, even in moments when I am impatient. So I don't want to say carte blanche across the board that it's not a virtue that's lacking you. I've seen you grow more patient.
Yes.
Over time as you kind of learn your own regulation work and mindset work.
But that's certainly, I mean, it's not natural for me because of my sanguine being my first one. I'm just very impulsive. I know it's a thought, but it really is something that is ingrained in me. I look at your sister, Shannon, and it's like the most patient person. And then Rachel McDonald is like another one. And it's like
and
patient, patient.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And they're all phlegmatic. So, that is just calm and composed. Kids are like crawling all over them and they're just like, yes. Okay. And they're like still talking to you.
They can be very intensive.
Yes.
Or if I had that same like kids crawling on me and be like, mommy, daddy, I'd be like, what? But I never see that. There's where there's kind of like this with them, it's more of a, okay, wait, mommy's talking. Just give me a moment. And there's just this balance. They're just not, they're not triggered.
I admire it. Yeah. I don't have that one. Okay. Yeah. So consistency.
Number 2.
Is number 2. I also don't really have this one. I do it with certain things, but they provide a stable and predictable environment, fostering security for their children. I'd like to say I provide predictable, like kind of an even keeled, like an emotional predictability to Avila. And I'm open to that. I'm on to that. I'm not the sanguine, because sanguine is my first. I'm not the sanguine parent who's like, let's do this today. Let's do this today. I'm like very aware that she needs consistency. And I do too, actually. There's a lot that I do need some of that consistency, but to constantly be like, okay, so here's the routine. When we get home from school, we do our homework, we change our clothes, we wash our hands. Like, so there's all that. That's also maybe something that, I don't know, I'm growing into a little bit more. Okay. Number 3, empathy. I definitely have this one. Yes. And I feel like every phlegmatic parent I know is like, just really
feels the feels.
Yes.
But like,
I want to say they feel the feels. Actually,
tell me more.
Phlegmatic is different, and they're very empathetic. They can connect with people. It's a very sincere connection, but they're not overly emotional. No. And I think a lot of people can go, you're kind of stoic. You're kind of like, my mom was phlegmatic, and I rarely saw my mother cry, but she was very empathetic. People could open their hearts to her. Like they knew that she was safe.
Yes.
Emotionally safe. And I think that's a different way. But they won't, because we form a lot of Catholic coaches, and I say this to the phlegmatic coaches. I'm like, you're actually really great at holding the space.
Yep.
Because you're not jumping in the pool with them, but they know that they're loved in that moment, and they know that they're seen.
Yeah. There really is a bias for connection, and not necessarily needing to fix the person or even advise the person, but really just be with the person and rest. Where I think the melancholic maybe, wanting to kind of advice, step into that consulting role a little bit more in that space, or jump in that pool and feel the feels, right? Yeah. And be like, pile on. But you're right. The phlegmatic really creates that nice clean space for the person to be as they are, but also not necessarily be contaminated. I think even how there's a lot of nurses.
Yes. Oh, 100%.
That have this phlegmatic temperament. Police officers.
Yep.
Who are in these are very volatile, dynamic, environments,
but they're like a stabilizing
but they're able
force.
To be steady.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. And you see that show up actually with the other strengths, which is patience and consistency, like, in those roles. Peacemaking. They are peacemakers. They excel in resolving conflicts and creating harmony within the family, or within any type of organization. But obviously we're talking about kids. So this is, they are the parent, who, like, if kids are fighting, they'll kind of figure out a creative way to, create peace pretty quickly.
While seeing both of the kids, usually there's a conflict, but they don't necessarily jump right, just taking a side, right? And so it's like they're very diplomatic in their approach to peacemaking.
Yes. And they are very supportive. Finally, they're supportive. They are reliable and willing to offer encouragement and help without being overbearing.
Supportive and steadfast.
Yes.
All right. So they'll stick with you. They're going to stick with, if somebody's got like a developmental struggle, learning disability, something like that, they're going to stick with that kid.
Yeah. I will say this, because I have both of my parents are phlegmatic. I don't know if my dad is primarily, but my mom definitely was. And I'm like, they're like the best parents. But the kids
They're the
always
best children also, like to their own parents.
they are.
They would just be, they would make time to be with their parents every single day.
And I'm obviously biased, but I just think they're like the best parents. However, we're going to get into this. There are some frustrations. There are some struggles with like boundaries, emotional boundaries, that kind of stuff. So if you get that nailed, I don't know, you're going to kill it. Okay. So let's go.
All right.
What are some frustrations? Number one, conflict with dominance.
And here I want to highlight, as we go through these frustrations, we're going to go like, this is kind of one that with a choleric child, the frustration will show up. And then we'll do sanguine, then we'll do melancholic, then we'll do phlegmatic on phlegmatic, blue on blue.
Yes.
So, okay. So this year, choleric frustration, conflict with dominance.
So you're a phlegmatic parent and you have a choleric child, and the choleric child is very assertive, and it can feel overwhelming because you're conflict averse and you're like, I need to find harmony. And cholerics don't really, they
aren't conflict averse.
They are conflict. Like they love conflict in a way.
It's
There's
not even
like
that
a
they
challenge.
love conflict. It's just like, it just doesn't matter. Right.
That's
and so there's not an aversion to it.
Yes. They have deep convictions. So they will go after what they want. And I think, and we'll get into this, but I think phlegmatics actually make it equal. Oh, they love conflict. Right. So like we are adamantly opposed. So we're going to talk about that in the
check it
belief sick. All right. Number two,
sanguines here. Sanguine kids.
Disorganization. A sanguine child's scattered nature can frustrate the phlegmatic parent's desire for peace and simplicity. I would say also consistency.
The routine.
So the the sanguine coming in and going like, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. Like we were talking about this actually last week about the sanguine child coming in with the inconsistency and I am actually very triggered by inconsistency when other people are like imposing it upon me.
I see. Yes.
And so I'm like, no. I will. So you
go into my room,
but also because
locking my doormat.
I will say also because it feels hard. Like I feel like I can't sit down because I'm like there to serve you. And that part of my phlegmatic nature where I'm like, this seems hard. I just don't want to do it. You know, like that really fights it. Okay. Number three, emotional depth. I relate to this one. A melancholic child's intense emotions may feel draining to a phlegmatic parent who prefers emotional calm. My phlegmatic brain, as soon as I hear like Avila kind of losing it, it's not all the time, but when she does, I'm like, what?
Feels heavy, feels hard.
It feels like the inner peace has been like taken from me.
Interesting.
Yes. Yes. And I'm like, emotional calm is like a big thing. It's a big stabilizer.
So it's okay. So there's the restlessness or the loss of the peace goes with, I need to fix this. I need to repair this. I need to restore this harmony.
Maybe I feel like it's just been taken from me. I'm like, oh,
okay.
Like, and I've never taken it further than that. Like sometimes I step in and I feel like I have to fix it. Sometimes I'm just like, why'd you take this from me? Even though it's not true. Like, you know, people can't take your emotional calm actually from you, believe it or not. And I think that's actually really good to know.
They can make it so that you have to do a lot of mindset work in order to maintain it, though. So
you have to do a lot of
there
ownership
are some conditions
work.
that it's easy and a little bit more challenging.
That's it. But I think that's actually a really great distinction, though. And I think actually phlegmatics need to hear this. So say that again.
No, there are some conditions where it is easier to maintain your peace. We call those ideal conditions, right? And then there are some conditions where it's more challenging. We call those trigger conditions. Okay. So that's just, we learn that stuff. We allow that. We explore that into greater depth in our academy. We have months that are dedicated to exploring like those ideal environments and those trigger conditions here as well. So check out the academy here to grow in that self-awareness.
But it's not impossible to like work through it. And that's the point I want to make.
Yeah. But I do want to say like it's going to take some work and you may never stop feeling triggered, but doing the work is going to help you to show up as a saint even in those environments and not just be victims to those
I
environments.
think the intensity of the trigger certainly goes down.
Yes.
From my own experience, what I'm going back to is that analogy. I remember it was like a picture of like a bird in a nest, and we'll get back to the frustrations after this, but I think this is important. It was like a bird in a nest on a branch over a really serene lake. And then the same bird in a nest on a branch over a raging waterfall. And they said, which one is the more peaceful bird? And the bird looked exactly the same. And it looked like it was just like sitting there and like resting. And I think like the answer was actually the one over the raging waterfall. Like no matter what, it's like maintaining its interior peace. And the point that was trying to make is like interior peace is a gift from God. It's internal work here. But when we blame our child for like taking it from us, now we're in powerlessness and we blame them and resent them, and it's not helpful. Okay. So
Cool.
let's go to,
I like that analogy.
I do too.
That was good. That was a really nice picture.
Thanks. A little word picture for y'all. You can take that.
Wink.
Take that to the bank. But I would say most phlegmatics, like we were saying, are the bird over the raging waterfall.
Okay.
Okay. Number 4, shared passivity. And this is for the phlegmatic child. So the phlegmatic parent to the phlegmatic child, this is a frustration. A phlegmatic child's lack of drive may amplify the parent's own tendencies toward inaction and procrastination.
So it's a little bit of a mirror that
Yes.
they don't really want to look into.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's just like easy. It's easy to like not do anything. Like, let's just sit around and
procrastinate.
I remember there was a phase in my life where I just was not excited about my job or my life. It was right when I graduated, and I lived with a bunch of phlegmatics. I was living at my friend's house, but like her whole family was phlegmatic, and I did nothing. I was like so inactive in my life.
Yes.
So anyway, okay.
All right.
Finally, the final frustration for all of the temperaments is resistance to change. Phlegmatic parents may struggle to implement needed structure or discipline, causing frustration when children resist boundaries. So
Yeah. Structure can also come, installing structure can be some pushback because there is a perceived loss of freedom, even if that is to guide them to using their freedom properly. Right. And it's good.
Yep.
So I don't want to impose that boundary. I don't want to set that boundary because the immediate consequences, this person's going to get pissed off or this kid's going to get, throw a tantrum about it.
Yeah.
But the long-term effects, this is where sitting in that superpower of conviction, like this is a real strength of the phlegmatic. When they're convicted on something, they'll endure anything.
Yes.
Because their belief is so strong in that area.
Or they're just loyal to the cause. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about just some of the common beliefs here. And we're not going to go through all of them. You can get download that free parenting guide that's here in the show notes. And you can look at all of them. But here we're just going to be focusing on the sanguine child today.
No, the choleric child.
Choleric child. Sorry. Thank you. Sanguine was last time.
So one thing before I say the beliefs, a lot of these beliefs seem like they're judgments on the child, but phlegmatics don't really truly do not judge their children that much. So what makes these beliefs painful is what the phlegmatic is making it mean about them.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah. Which I would say that kind of is the case with all the other temperaments, but more so with the phlegmatic because they just, I don't know, their judgments, if they are there, are very hidden. So I'm just going to go ahead and say this.
Okay. So it's a judgment, a subtle judgment about the kid, but really it's more of I feel ashamed that I think this about my kid. That
or I should have more boundaries, or, they make it
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Got it. All right. So here, parenting a choleric child. We've got conflict with dominance here. What are some of the beliefs that are underneath some of the conflict between a phlegmatic parent and their choleric kid?
They are too intense and they always want to be in charge. They argue with and push back on everything I say. They need to calm down and chill out. I can't even tell you how many times they say to Evelyn, just relax. I wish they would stop trying to control everyone and everything. They are inconsiderate. So this is a little dramatic. Some of these, like everything and everyone, like phlegmatics don't really talk that dramatically.
Here's one that comes up. I would say, why does it always have to be a fight?
Yes.
That's one that I'll hear more.
Yes.
It always has to be a fight.
So let's work on that one because that's actually the one I worked on.
Okay, cool.
Why does it always have to be a fight?
Mm-hmm.
So why does this always have to be a fight? Leads to feeling frustrated, drained, like exhausted, emotionally exhausted. Like what you would do from that, or what I would do from that, is withdraw from the child, back down, and allow them, like, just give them their way. Like, don't follow through with boundaries. Like, it's another fight again. I'm like exhausted. No. And they disconnect with them. And then they kind of like, we kind of like quietly resent them.
Quiet resentment.
Yes.
Which is the same thing as loud resentment.
Really?
It's just as toxic.
Out loud resentment. Yes. I feel like it's more toxic because it's hidden.
Yeah.
But, and then the fruits are like, it actually becomes an interior fight for you. Like you are actually interiorly fighting with yourself. And then you're like resenting your child, and like you're still fighting with them by resenting them.
Yeah. The fight doesn't go away. It just takes on a new form.
Right.
And it's much more subtle, much more destructive.
Right. So if I were coaching a phlegmatic, I'd be like, why is this a problem for you? Like, why is fighting a problem for you? And I'm guessing they would say something like, well, I hate fighting. I hate arguing. And they seem to love it. You know, they seem to be fine with it. And I think like another question I would ask is like, okay, so like, how might you be wrong about the fact that they like fighting? I mean, do you think they like it, or do you think they just, like what you're saying, they just don't care?
Yeah, I really want to play with that word fighting.
Right.
I mean,
I would too.
That word fighting is just kind of like, it's a bit charged here. And I could see how that would just be automatically triggering for somebody of the phlegmatic temperament. And so what is a reframe? What is even a way that we might be able to play with that word fighting? Resist. Yeah.
Maybe resist or really what I would like to do if I were coaching a phlegmatic, and I'll coach my own brain here. It's like what I personally know is when somebody is resistant to somebody else or challenging somebody else, that tells me that a value of theirs is being challenged, one or many.
Or they perceive it, at least.
Or they perceive that it's being challenged. And I think what is really, really helpful for phlegmatic parents to know is that actually there's nothing innately wrong with that. You have different values than your child. You value peace and harmony. And that does not mean that somebody comes in there and takes it from you. Remember, we were talking about that. Like, they can't actually take it from you, but they value something else. So get curious about what it is that they value here, because they're not doing it to be like a jerk. They're not doing it to take your harmony out of your space or your peace out of your space. They're doing it because they're very convicted and passionate about something.
Yep. And something they want.
Right. Something that they want. And what a beautiful thing. Like, you could actually learn from that a little bit.
Well, again, the foundation of that loving relationship, John Paul II talks about it, is two people willing the same common good together. So if you can identify what it is that somebody wants, and maybe it is a good, maybe what they're looking for is they're looking for some excitement, or they're looking for a little bit more structure, or they just want to get things done. They want to get it done the right way, whatever it is that they want. Once you identify what that is, then you can choose if you're going to partner with them towards that common good together. And now you've got the foundation of real harmony, where you're working with somebody, with your kid in this case, towards a common goal that both of you want.
Yeah.
Both of you choose.
Yeah. I also like the thought that leads to admiration a little bit. I remember I was coaching a parent in this, and I was like, and I like actually reached out to her and was like, what was helpful about that coaching call? Because we had a presentation we were going to do. And she said, all I remember is that you said, well, here's a really good thing to know. Your child will never be brainwashed. She was a phlegmatic parent to a choleric child. And she was like, and that just like brought such admiration for them. Like they have like such convictions, and like they just need to know and understand things and be really clear on that and like decide it like independently on their own.
Yeah. Yeah. I think even like, oh, she's using that will of steel.
Yes. Just
she's using that. There's that strong will.
Yes. She's developing that strong will.
That's even better.
I'm helping her develop that strong will. Even better.
Yeah.
Like now you're like entering into your superpower as a phlegmatic.
Are we getting into your reframes right now? It sounds like you're into your reframes. Okay. So like these are, I like this. Okay.
Yeah. I think also a reframe is this is actually not an attack on our relationship. This has the potential to make our relationship stronger.
Yeah.
I think that is just because really what was happening was the phlegmatic is thinking this is an attack on my peace, the relationship, the harmony in the house. And that's not the case. So claim it as truth. Like this is not an attack on that. It's like this actually has the ability to make us stronger. I'm
curious if you actually say like ask the phlegmatic parent, what is your role here with the strong-willed choleric child? How does that help you to get to that reframe? Or how did it help you when you asked that question? What's your role?
Well, okay. So like the way I would frame it to a phlegmatic parent and to myself is my role is to help develop this will of steel for my choleric child. That's my role.
Interesting.
Yeah. And also I think there's just like so many things that your choleric child could learn from you. I think that your consistency, and they would appreciate that as well. So I think you understanding that you are a gift to your choleric child, is tremendous for a phlegmatic.
I think a superpower a phlegmatic parent can give to a choleric child as well is the gift of the empathy. So the learned empathy, what comes very naturally to you, which is like, okay, I'm going to do this thing, and I'm very considerate of how it's going to impact everybody else.
Yes.
I think of my sister specifically when it's like, hey, can Avila come over here? She takes a while to respond because she's considering how it's going to affect my brother-in-law, how it's going to affect some of the older kids. She's looking at all the dynamics. She's like, okay, this is primary. I want to make sure that these things are here, and I want to be able to give a full yes without minimizing any sort of like triggering, situations for my own family here as well.
Yes.
So, but this is something that learned empathy. Cholerics, we don't always think of the impact of our words or our actions on other people. It's not that we can't. It just isn't naturally. It's not naturally at the front, where it is naturally at the front for the phlegmatic. And I remember the time where I was like in second grade, and I was like bullying a kid on the school bus. Didn't know I was bullying him until his mom called my mom, and my mom was just like, this is actually causing him a whole lot of pain. And I never did it after that. That was, but it was just having somebody say, I don't think you're looking at this over here.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily see it clearly, but you can help us to see it, phlegmatic parents.
Yeah. And I think when you present, and this is for all the parents out there, if you have a choleric child, if you present something to them, like, hey, I think this would be really helpful for you, and here's why. Don't let it be arbitrary. Like, just here's why I think you would really value this. Like, when you bring people on board, when you consider everybody in the group and you're bringing people on board, your mission and your vision and whatever your goal you're trying to achieve, it actually makes things easier and faster. Right? So you're kind of speaking you're speaking their love language in a sense, but you will also want to give good reasons. Yep. And think those through. That's a great thought exercise for all of us.
Yeah. And if you want, there's another series of podcasts earlier on, like 2, maybe even 3 years ago now, where it's some of our more popular ones, how to love, motivate, and how to love and motivate the
accept
the choleric,
accept, love, and
the choleric.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great way in how you can even reframe some things for getting your choleric child, any choleric engaged.
Yeah. So
Cool.
A couple new thoughts, couple new reframes for the phlegmatic parent. I'm going to go back to this is one that leads to curiosity. I wonder what's underneath this conviction, because that's what it is. It's like, even just the word that you use to describe, like remove the word argue, remove the word fight. They're just not helpful words for you as a phlegmatic parent. Like you're going to resist them. But this is conviction. We could probably all agree on that the choleric is fighting and is convicted on something. So get curious. And this thought actually leads to curiosity. I wonder what's underneath this conviction. I wonder what's underneath this. What is driving this conviction? It just moves you in a place of curiosity and compassion. And that is your superpower. So just live there.
Yeah. You want to identify what that thing is, because that's where you can either partner with them moving towards that foundation of harmony, or you can kind of help them logically to take a look at their actions and say, okay, you said you wanted this, but this is what you're getting with what you're doing. Do you still want to choose to do these things over here? And walking them through the actual logic so they can adjust their conviction towards something that's actually more virtuous.
Another good question you can ask is, what is a common goal we could both work towards? This is actually really helpful for a choleric as well, but that common goal, that language is really helpful for the phlegmatic. Like we don't have to be in opposition. Like I'm here to help you. I'm here to support you in whatever this is. But like, what is a common goal we can work towards? And then the one that I gave you guys before is this isn't an attack on our relationship. In fact, this can make us stronger. And then I think that's it.
Cool.
I think... What was the other one? There was another one I was thinking. It will come back.
Let's jump. Okay. Let's jump into our strategies here.
All right.
Okay. So final section here, we talk about different strategies that you can approach. Erin, you've got notes that are all over the place here. So I'm going to let you walk us through the strategies.
I'm going to give you guys the strategies for the phlegmatic parent parenting, the choleric child. Okay. So number 1, set clear, non-negotiable boundaries calmly but firmly to establish authority without escalating conflict. Most phlegmatics will read this or hear this and go, boundaries, no. There's a lot of associations with boundaries. And if this doesn't apply to you, great, we can move on. But I first want to pause here. And I think instead of using the word boundaries, okay, we kind of know what boundaries are, and it would actually be a great thought exercise for you to understand why boundaries are valuable to especially cholerics who have a ton of power and a ton of drive. Like having boundaries would keep them aligned and on their goal. And I think that would actually be a really helpful thought exercise for you to think about that for the choleric sake. But if you're still like, I hate the word boundaries, I think you can just remove it and substitute another word in. And that word is, I'm going to establish new processes. I think I like that. I love that so much. It's like, instead of doing a boundary, it's like a process that helps my child thrive. Like do this. And each process, each step of the process does have boundaries. It like naturally does have boundaries. It's like, this is what winning looks like. This is not, right? But that's how processes work. Yeah.
I even like the question, like, what are the conditions where I can give yes with and feel comfortable about giving my yes? To like,
what are you talking about? Are you talking about boundaries?
Yeah, I'm talking about boundaries here, because like boundaries have to do with yeses and nos, and rather than boundaries can often go like in a very protective place. But I think another way of approaching boundaries is asking the question: what are the environments? What are the conditions where I can say yes? And some of those conditions are going to be like, you're not going to talk to me like that. You're not going to raise your voice. Like, I'll be able to have the conversation with you.
Okay.
You're shaking your head.
Well, I don't think this, I'm actually just removing the idea of boundaries.
Are you putting a boundary in place right now?
I am, because I'm like, okay, so I'm trying to remove the idea of a boundary.
Okay.
Because boundaries, just from people who I've coached and myself too. It's just like, whoa, if I can't see that they are useful, I won't even go after them.
Okay.
I won't even just be like, you can't talk to me like that. That's like, no.
All right. I'm not even saying the word boundary. I'm just saying the conditions where my yes can mean yes and my no can mean no.
I think
that. That's more.
Conditions are great.
Yeah.
That's a new word.
Great.
I like processes. Because a process is not personal.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's not like I'm being mean because I'm setting boundaries. It's like, no. Like this is a process and like this is winning in the process and this isn't.
Okay.
And we're not going to argue with that because that's like fact, right? So it's not personal. The process is impersonal in that way. Another new thought is when it comes to sticking with boundaries, because that's the hardest thing. Being consistent with them and like following through on them is this thought for you phlegmatic parents. And if you like these thoughts are not great, whatever, you try them on for size and release them if they don't work. But I don't have to be forceful. I just need to be consistent. Consistency is one of your superpowers. And I think a lot of people think when we say enforce boundaries or keep boundaries, like there's an automatic thought, I have to be forceful about this. No, you literally just have to be consistent. You just gotta be like, hey, we agreed on this.
Great. Okay.
Here's a boundary.
What's next?
The next strategy is use their natural drive by giving them leadership opportunities within limits, like assigning them responsibilities at home. Okay. New thought to help you with that is my role as a parent is to direct their desire for leadership to something productive. And so you could be very straightforward with that. And in fact, I'm sure if you brought that up to your choleric child, hey, I really love that you love to be a leader and like, let's find the most productive thing that you can work on in the house and practice that skill. Okay, next strategy is help the choleric child focus on the consequences of their actions. You mentioned this earlier.
Yeah.
Cholerics are logical, and guys, so are phlegmatics. They're very logical. They go, okay, so if your actions were a formula and they always create these consequences, like what else could we do? Right. And bring them into that conversation, bring them into that decision and work on that goal together. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah. And if they're choleric, melancholic, sometimes just asking that question and just allowing them to walk away and think about it.
Yes.
Think it through. You don't have to have the immediate answer and get the immediate closure to it. It's just like, I'm going to give you a chance to just think about that and create a little space for them to do that. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about this.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And a new thought for that is similar to what we were just saying, but I simply need to bring their attention to the consequences, like facts, as if they're facts.
Yep.
Finally, approach conflicts with patience. You are actually really good at this. Don't tell yourself that you're not. Don't tell yourself that you are terrible at whatever. Just know that you are really great at being even keeled and steady in approaching anything that may look like a conflict. It might not even really be a conflict, but may look like a tension or something that's inconsistent. You guys bring excellent consistency to things, but model that respectful communication. Cholerics do really, really, really well when they are taught this skill in life, right? We all know that our choleric child is going to grow up and be a powerhouse, but we're like, okay, we also don't want them to be like burning bridges and like,
Wreck-It Ralph. Yes.
Yeah, like destroying relationships on the way there. So the new thought here is I get to give this gift of modeling respectful communication to my child.
I love how you went through all the strategies and you actually gave some new thoughts, some good reframes for this.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, good. Phlegmatic parents, you're all done. All right. That's my choleric. Check the box.
And come and get coached if you still need help.
Come and check it out. And I want to highlight, again, I want to invite you guys here. We want to get this word out. Please go and give us a review. If you're listening on iTunes, just open up your podcast app there and just write us a review. Give us a little bit of feedback. Give us those 5 stars. It helps us to get this podcast out into the ears of more people. If you're watching on YouTube, comment, like, and subscribe there too. Super helpful stuff.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
That's it.
We're going to be
guys.
bringing on, I'm really excited. I don't know if it's going to be next episode or in the future, but we've been talking a lot with Mike and Alicia Hernan from the Messy Family podcast, and they great friends over there. So we're going to be bringing them on. We're going to be talking temperaments, as I think they've really created an amazing standard of excellence over there with their podcast and their apostolate, the Messy Family Project. So,
and I love the name of it. It's like such permission.
It's so, I was talking
human.
to Mike, he's just like, we are just so on brand. I remember when we went over to their house and he just goes, we're on brand here. This is like stuff all over the place. He's just like, we're making it work. So
that's awesome.
It's cool.
Yeah. All right,
Awesome.
guys. Thank you so much for sticking around with us. And we'll be praying for all y'all in all of your temperaments and all of your children. All y'all.
Cool.
Sounded really weird. Anyway,
right.
Okay, we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye. Hey, thanks for sticking with us in the Catholic Coaching Podcast. If you like what you heard,
Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again.